Hello everyone. I'm back with movie recap. I'm going to review one of the 2006 sci-fi movies, called Idiocracy. I would like to ask you to please like and subscribe before we begin. Without further ado, let's get started. 2005 is the year in which the film's plot takes place. The narrator of the film states at the outset that a turning point in the evolution of humanity has occurred. According to the majority of science fiction theories, humans will have more advanced technology and intelligent individuals in the future. However, because we are already at the top of the food chain, our evolution changes for the worse. With age, people get stupider. Under such circumstances, the U.S. Corporal Joe Bowers, an army librarian, is approached by his superiors who ask him to take part in an important experiment. Joe, who intended to work as a librarian until retirement, is displeased but has to carry out the directives. Then, we are led into a closed-door meeting between some senior military officers. The other officers are presented with General Collins' ideas. According to him, researchers have created a human hibernation pod that can keep people alive indefinitely, so that humans can keep their best men alive when they are at their best and revive them in a crisis. Because Joe is the most common man in the military and has no close relatives, they decided to make him the subject of their first test experiment. Similar to that, they also needed a woman for the experiment, but they couldn't quite find the right person in the military. Collins ultimately settles on Rita, a prostitute. He makes everyone in the room uneasy by displaying images of him and Rita's manager Upgrade having a good time together to the police. He says that the subjects will be placed in the pods tomorrow and that the experiment will last a year as he concludes. The officials in the room aren't allowed to discuss the experiment with anyone because it is very highly classified. Joe and Rita are in a waiting area together the following day. Joe makes an introduction and inquires about Rita's region. Rita claims to be a painter in order to conceal the fact that she is a prostitute. They are both then placed into two human hibernation pods and given IVs. Rita panics and tries to stand up, but Joe reassures her that the scientists are competent. He assures her that since they will only be inside for a year, everything will be fine. The two are finally sealed inside the pods. When Officer Collins is detained in an attempted prostitution ring, however, things start to go wrong. Upgrade is also taken into custody with him for running a prostitution ring. As a result, no one is currently on duty to watch over the hibernation pods. The military base was shut down due to a scandal, and the building the pods were in was destroyed. The years pass, and Joe and Rita remain motionless in the pod. Although things appear to be going badly for the two, they are much worse for humanity. At a startling rate, humans are becoming increasingly stupid. With time, the chart of average intelligence declines. Some people have high hopes that genetic engineering and science will be able to reverse this trend of evolution, but the world's smartest researchers are instead concentrating on foolish experiments like attempting to delay erections and reverse hair loss. Up until the year 2505, the population multiplies rapidly, and intelligence continues to decline. People have been unable to find solutions to everyday issues like garbage disposal for a very long time. Therefore, the garbage has been piled for centuries without any kind of plan. The result is the 2505 Great Garbage Avalanche. Additionally, Joe's hibernation pod accidentally ends up in a random home one day due to a significant garbage landslide. Joe exits the pod feeling dizzy and uncertain. Frito Pendejo resides in the residence. A pile of trash and a stranger in Frito's home are completely ignored as he continues to watch strange TV. He only stands up to tell Joe to be quiet. We can see that he has a toilet built into his couch so he won't have to constantly get up. Joe is then kicked out of the window by him. Joe feels perplexed by the outside world and thinks to himself that so much has changed in just a year. But he is unaware that the year is 2505. He notices a group of grunting, slang-speaking individuals standing by the side of the road. Although Joe can understand them, they call him names and shoo him away when he speaks in his normal way. Joe is disoriented and nauseous, so he chooses to visit a nearby hospital. He goes to the reception there, and informs the woman that he is from the army. The woman simply presses one of the numerous buttons on her desk because she doesn't understand anything. Joe is instructed to head to the diagnostic area on the right by a voice. He goes to a water fountain to get some water confused, but it only has an energy drink called the Brondo. When Joe asks a passerby where he can get water, the man mocks Joe for wanting to drink toilet water. It is discovered that everyone uses Brondo instead of water for daily activities like drinking, bathing, and cleaning toilets. The diagnostic area is where he goes next, where he must insert plugs into his mouth, ear, and anus. The medical professional places the wrong plugs in the places where he has already placed them. After the procedure is finished, a disgusted Joe is taken to the doctor. He notices the year 2505 written on a magazine while he is waiting but brushes it off as a typo. When the doctor shows up, he calls Joe's inquiries about his health kick-ass. Additionally, he declares Joe to be mentally retarded and demands a $5 billion fee. Joe suddenly notices that the bill has 2,505 written on it. He finally understands that he has actually spent 500 years inside the pod. When Joe almost doesn't believe it and goes to the window, he is shocked to see the city's current state. Some of the buildings are being held together by ropes as they collapse on top of one another. The city is also overrun with garbage. Joe's lack of a citizen tattoo on his wrist freaks out the doctor, who is also alarmed. While the doctor is reporting Joe to the police for not paying his hospital bills, Joe panics and flees the facility. Joe has woken up to a world in crisis, the voice in the background narrates. The nation's #1 movie is ass, the economy is in dire need of repair, and a great dust bowl has destroyed all food supplies. He watches the Oscar-winning film, only to spend the entire first 90 minutes staring at someone's behind. He is detained overnight for being unscannable and brought before a judge. He is then assigned a lawyer there, who just so happens to be Frito Pendejo, the man Joe first met in 2505. He is made fun of by Frito as the court laughs. Joe makes a persuasive argument and explains why he cannot be scanned, but the attorneys and judge just laugh at him. Finally, the judge finds him guilty and jail time is imposed. Rita emerges from the pod at the same time and is attempting to get in touch with her manager and boyfriend Upgrade. She tries to call him, but the phone demands $2,000 before she can do so. Just then, a man approaches her, and she tricks him into giving her his money. Joe is also brought to a facility that uses automated tattooing, where citizens receive the identification tattoo that makes them scannable. When the machine asks him his name, Joe begins to say that he is unsure of what is happening. The machine interprets his name as not sure, as a result, and tattoos it on his wrist. His immediate surroundings begin referring to him as not sure. Then, he is brought in for an amplitude and IQ test while being quizzed on fundamental addition. Joe is surprised to see people around him who are unable to recognize shapes as he correctly responds to each question. He is then brought to the prison. He finally starts to realize how stupid everyone in the modern world is. So, he informs the guard that his release from custody is scheduled for today. The incompetent guard lets him leave, but when the alarms go off and it is discovered that an inmate has escaped, the police start pursuing him. Joe finds a way to escape from them and returns to Frito's home. He asks Frito for assistance in locating a time machine because he thinks that one has been built within the last 500 years. Although Frito is unwilling to assist Joe, Joe tricks him by promising to pay him $8 billion in exchange for his assistance. Frito eventually admits that he is aware of the location of the time machine. The police arrive at the door shortly after looking for Joe. The two drive to the museum after escaping out the window. They run into Rita, who is still defrauding the same man, as they travel. While still unaware that Upgrade has already passed away, Rita gets into the car and worries that he will come after her for the money she owes him. Joe's wrist is scanned as they are moving along, and the police are informed of his location. They exit the vehicle when the battery dies. The police then approach the car and begin to fire at it. Soon, several join in and the fighting begins. In an effort to reach the time machine, Joe, Frito, and Rita elude capture. After that, Joe drives the two to Costco, which is now the hub of activity. Even more outrageous, he says he studied law at Costco. Rita uses the restroom while they wait for the metro. Before she comes back, Joe's wrist is inadvertently scanned, alerting everyone to the presence of a thief. Frito boards the metro when it arrives, but Joe waits for Rita only to be apprehended by the police. But this time, rather than being taken to jail, he is taken to the White House. A bewildered Joe runs into President Camacho and his secretaries there. Joe is ridiculed by Camacho, who claims that he expected Joe's head to be bigger because he is intelligent. Joe's IQ was the highest they had ever seen, which surprised everyone when they discovered the results of the prison IQ test. Joe is therefore appointed as the new Secretary of the Interior by the President due to his intelligence. They also proclaim Joe the world's smartest man, much to Joe's surprise. Then everyone goes to the House of Representatives, where the President declares that their new Secretary of the Interior, Mr. Not Sure, will deal with the issues of food scarcity and dust storms. He also guarantees that if he finds a solution, Joe's prison sentence will be lifted. Following that, the secretaries ask Joe to say something insightful during a cabinet meeting. Joe uses some seemingly random, complex words to convince them that he is, in fact, intelligent. After that, until he can divert the secretaries, Joe asks Frito to draw a map of where the time machine is located. Later, he leads them to a field intended for crop cultivation. Rita might be able to assist them with the crops, so he also asks them to get her. Now that everyone has arrived at the field, Frito sneakily gives Joe the map. Rita shows up at the same time. Joe pulls her aside with the intention of using the map to flee. When he realizes Frito's map is nothing more than a line, his plan is doomed. Joe then realizes that people have been using the energy drink Brondo to water the crops. He calls a cabinet meeting to discuss switching to water from Braun. His idea is despised by the secretaries. He simply informs them that he can communicate with plants, and that they want water rather than trying to reason with them. Joe is not aware that the energy drink had caused salt to accumulate on topsoil, killing plants and igniting dust storms. Consequently, he is actually resolving their issues. Everything proceeds as expected for a few days. However, due to the decreased production, Brondo's stock soon drops to zero. The result is that the unemployment rate is 50%. Outside the White House, they riot. The news reports that Joe has been charged with causing unemployment, and has been found guilty. He is ordered to serve a single night of rehabilitation. In the modern world, rehabilitation happens when a criminal is pursued by a big truck in a stadium, while a cheering audience supports the truck. When a criminal dies, rehabilitation generally comes to an end. Rita regrettably returns to the White House in preparation for her trip to the time machine with Frito while Joe is taken to the arena. National television carries the rehabilitation. Joe is driving around in a small car while being pursued by a huge killing Turk. Rita sees a rose plant growing outside at that precise moment. She asks Frito to drive her to the arena after realizing Joe's plan to water the plants had succeeded. She intends to air the crops on television in order to have Joe's punishment overturned. Joe is still attempting to escape the death truck at this time. Rita arrives on schedule and offers to pay a cameraman to accompany Frito and film the crops as they grow. She then goes to the control panel in the monitoring room and takes it over. Finally reaching the field, Frito records the crops. The video is shown on the big screen. When the President Camacho sees this, he spares Joe's life and commutes his sentence, which causes the crowd to erupt in applause. Everyone is currently enjoying a frat party in the White House. Rita admits that she prefers the future and does not want to go back home. Joe is taken aback, but he doesn't pressurize her to accompany him. As they say their final goodbyes, the president summons Joe to the stage and appoints him as the new vice president. Joe consents to remain in 2505 because everyone is looking at him with optimism. After that, someone describes the time machine as a stupid ride. The time machine is eventually revealed to be a kiddie ride as Frito leads a perplexed Joe over to it. A few months later, Joe is elected president of the United States, and Rita becomes his wife and first lady. The scene is cut. People hope that humans could once again be intelligent as a new era under his leadership came into being. Even his 3 children with Rita, who are reputed to be the brightest in the world, belong to him. Okay guys, this was the recap of Idiocracy. Thanks for watching, see you on next video.